Hello, and welcome to the 43rd episode of Tuesday Tales of Terror, where we continue making our way through Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Good evening. How is everyone doing? Happy halfway to Halloween. We are now officially over halfway to Halloween by several days. About almost a week, actually. So I probably should have said it last week. But we don't do anything ahead of time. That would be ridiculous. Let's see. That's right. So it looks like, where were we? Bod was being chased by Everyman Jack. I believe there's 3 or 4 of them chasing him at this point in the graveyard. And he's just opened a ghoul gate. A ghoul gate, which is funny because just the other day I said, do you remember that time we ran off with the ghouls? So with that in mind, let us begin our perhaps second to last Tuesday Tales of Terror into the foray of Bod's adventures through the graveyard. Okay. The grave swung up like a trapdoor. Something like that. The grave swung up like a trapdoor. In the deep hole below the door, Bod could see stars, a darkness filled with glimmering lights. The bull man, Mr. Tar, at the edge of the hole, could not stop and stumbled, surprised, into the darkness. Mr. Nimble jumped toward Bod, his arms extended, leaping over the hole. Bod watched as the man stopped in the air at the zenith of his spring and hung there for a moment before he was sucked through the ghoul gate, down and down. Mr. Dandy stood at the edge of the ghoul gate, on a lip of stone, and looked down into the darkness beneath. Then he raised his eyes to Bod, and thin-lipped he smiled. "I don't know what you just did," said Mr. Dandy, "but it didn't work." He pulled his gloved hand out of his pocket, holding a gun, pointed directly at Bod. "I should have just done this 13 years ago," said Mr. Dandy. "You can't trust other people. If it's important, you have to do it yourself." A desert wind came up from the open ghoul gate, hot and dry with grit in it. Bod said, "There's a desert down there. If you look for water, you find some. There's things to eat if you look hard, but don't antagonize the night gaunts. Avoid Ghoulheim. The ghouls might wipe your memories and make you into one of them, or they might wait until you've rotted down and then eat you. Either way, you can do better." The gun barrel did not waver. Mr. Dandy said, "Why are you telling me this?" Bod pointed across the graveyard. "Because of them," he said, and as he said it, Mr. Dandy glanced away. Only for a moment. Bod faded. Mr. Dandy's eyes flickered away and back, but Bod was no longer by the broken statue. From deep in the hole, something called, like the lonely night bird. Mr. Dandy looked around, his forehead a slash, his body a mass of indecision and rage. "Where are you?" he growled. "The deuce take you! Where are you?" He thought he heard a voice say, "Ghoul gates are made to be opened and then closed again. You can't leave them open. They want to close." The lip of the hole shuddered and shook. Mr. Dandy had been in an earthquake once, years before, in Bangladesh. It felt like that. The earth juddered, and Mr. Dandy fell, would have fallen into the darkness, but he caught hold of the fallen headstone, threw his arms about it, and locked on. He did not know what was beneath him, only that he had no wish to find out. The earth shook, and he felt the headstone begin to shift beneath his weight. He looked up. The boy was there, looking down at him curiously. "I'm going to let the gate close now," he said. I think if you keep holding on to that thing, it might close on you and crush you, or it might just absorb you and make you into part of the gate. I don't know, but I'm giving you a chance, more than you ever gave my family." A ragged judder. Mr. Dandy looked up into the boy's gray eyes and he swore. Then he said, "You can't ever escape us. We're the jacks of all trades. We're everywhere. It's not over." "It is for you," said Bod. "The end of your people and all you stand for. Like your man in Egypt predicted. You didn't kill me. You were everywhere. Now it's all over." Then Bod smiled. "That's what Silas is doing, isn't it? That's where he is." Mr. Dandy's face confirmed everything that Bod had suspected, and what Mr. Dandy might have said to that, Bod would never know, because the man let go of the headstone then and tumbled slowly down into the open ghoul gate. Bod said, "Weg Carados." The ghoul gate was a grave once again, and nothing more. Something was tugging at his sleeve. Fortinbras Bartleby looked up at him. "Bod! The man by the chapel! He's going up the hill!" The man Jack followed his nose. He had left the others, not least because the stink of Jack Dandy's cologne made finding anything subtler impossible. He could not find the boy by scent, not here. The boy smelled like the graveyard, but the girl smelled like her mother's house, like the dab of perfume she had touched to her neck before school that morning. She smelled like a victim, too, like fear sweat, thought Jack, like his quarry. And wherever she was, the boy would be, too, sooner or later. His hand closed around the handle of his knife, and he walked up the hill. He was almost at the top of the hill when it occurred to him, a hunch he knew was a truth, that Jack Dandy and the rest of them were gone. Good, he thought. There's always room at the top. The man Jack's own rise through the order had slowed and stopped after he had failed to kill all of the Dorian family. It was as if he had no longer been trusted. Now soon everything would change. At the top of the hill, the man Jack lost the girl's scent. He knew she was near. He retraced his steps, almost casually, caught her perfume again about 50 feet away beside a small mausoleum with a closed metal gateway. He pulled on the gate, and it swung wide. Her scent was strong now. He could smell that she was afraid. He pulled down the coffins one by one from their shelves and let them clatter onto the ground, shattering the old wood, spilling their contents onto the mausoleum floor. No, she was not hiding in any one of those. Then where? He examined the wall. Solid. He went down on his hands and knees, pulled the last coffin out and reached back. His hand found an opening. "Scarlet," he called, trying to remember how he would have called her name when he was Mr. Frost, but he could not even find that part of himself any longer. He was the man Jack now, and that was all he was. On his hands and knees he crawled through the hole in the wall. When Scarlet heard the crashing noise from above, she made her way carefully down the steps, her left hand touching the wall, her right hand holding the little LED key ring, which cast just enough light to allow her to see where she was placing her feet. She made it to the bottom of the stone steps and edged back in the open chamber, her heart thumping. She was scared. Scared of nice Mr. Frost and his scarier friends, scared of this room and its memories, even, if she were honest, a little afraid of Bod. He was no longer a quiet boy with a mystery, a link to her childhood. He was something different, something not quite human. She thought, "I wonder what Mum's thinking right now. She'll be phoning Mr. Frosthouse over and over to find out when I'm going to get back," she thought. "If I get out of this alive, I'm going to force her to get me a phone. It's ridiculous. I'm the only person in my year who doesn't have her own phone, practically." She thought, "I miss my mum." She had not thought anyone human could move that silently through the dark, but a gloved hand closed upon her mouth, and a voice that was only barely recognizable as Mr. Frost said without any emotion, "Do anything clever. Do anything at all, and I'll cut your throat. Nod if you understand me." Scarlet nodded. Bod saw the chaos on the floor of the Frobisher mausoleum, the fallen coffins with their contents scattered across over the aisle. There were many Frobishers and several Pettifers, all in various states of upset and consternation. "He's already down there," said Ephraim. Thank you, said Bod. He clambered through the hole into the inside of the hill, and he went down the stairs. Bod saw as the dead see. He saw the steps, and he saw the chamber at the bottom. And when he got halfway down the steps, he saw the man Jack holding Scarlet. He had her arm twisted up behind her back, and a large, wicked boning knife at her neck. Boning knife. The man Jack looked up in the darkness. "Hello, boy," he said. Bod said nothing. He concentrated on his fade, took another step. "You think I can't see you," said the man Jack. "And you're right. I can't. Not really. But I can smell your fear, and I can hear you move, and hear you breathe. And now that I know your clever vanishing trick, I can feel you. Say something now. Say it so I can hear it, or I start to cut little pieces out of the young lady. Do you understand me?" "Yes," said Bod, his voice echoing in the chamber room. "I understand." "Good," said Jack. "Now come here. Let's have a little chat." Bod began to walk down the steps. He concentrated on the fear, on raising the level of panic in the room, of making the terror something tangible. "Stop that," said the man Jack. "Whatever it is you're doing, don't do it." Bod let it go. "You think," said Jack, "that you can do your little magics on me. Do you know what I am, boy?" Bod said, "You're a Jack. You killed my family, and you should have killed me." Jack raised an eyebrow. He said, "I should have killed you." "Oh, yes. The old man said that if you let me grow into adulthood, your order would be destroyed. I did. You failed, and you lost." "My order goes back before Babylon. Nothing can harm it." "They didn't tell you, did it? Did they?" Bod was standing 5 paces from the man Jack. "Those 4, they were the last of the Jacks. What was it? Krakow and Vancouver and Melbourne, all gone." Scarlet said, "Please, Bod. Please, Bod. Make him let go of me." "Don't worry," said Bod, with a calm he did not feel. He said to Jack, "There's no point in hurting her. There's no point in killing me. Don't you understand? There isn't even an order of Jacks of all trades. Not any more." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "If this is true," said Jack, "and if I am now a Jack all alone, then I have an excellent reason for killing you both." Bod said nothing. "Pride," said the man Jack. "Pride in my work. Pride in finishing what I began." And then he said, "What are you doing?" Bod's hair prickled. He could feel a smoke tendril presence twining through the room. He said, "It's not me. It's the Sleer. It guards the treasure that's buried here." "Don't lie." Scarlet said, "He's not lying. It's true." "True? It's true." Jack said, "True. Buried treasure. Don't make me." "The Sleer guards the treasure for the master." "Who said that?" asked the man Jack, looking around. "You heard it?" asked Bod, puzzled. "I heard it," said Jack. "Yes." Scarlet said, "I didn't hear anything." The man Jack said, "What is this place, boy? Where are we?" Before Bod could speak, the Sleer's voice spoke, echoing through the chamber. "This is the place of the treasure. This is the place of power. This is where the Sleer guards and waits for its master to return." Bod said, "Jack." Blip, blip, blip. The man Jack tilted his head to one side. He said, "It's good to hear my name in your mouth, boy. If you'd used it before, I could have found you sooner." "Jack, what was my real name?" I lost my slipper. Here it is. Huh. "What did my family call me?" "Why should that matter to you now?" The Slayer told me to find my name. What was it? Let me see. What was it? Was it Peter? Or was it Paul? Or Roderick? You look like a Roderick. Maybe you were Stephen. He was playing with the boy. You might as well tell me. You're going to kill me anyway, said Bod. Jack shrugged and nodded in the darkness as if to say, obviously. I want you to let the girl go, said Bod. Let Scarlet go. Jack peered into the darkness and said, that's an altar stone, isn't it? I suppose so. And a knife, and a cup, and a brooch. He was smiling now in the darkness. Bod could see it on his face, a strange, delighted smile that seemed out of place on that face, a smile of discovery and of understanding. Scarlet couldn't see anything but a blackness that sometimes erupted in flashes inside her eyeballs, but she could hear the delight in Jack's voice. The man Jack said, so, the brotherhood is over, and the convocation is at an end. And yet, if there are no more Jacks of all trades but me, what does it matter? There can be a new brotherhood, more powerful than the last. Power, echoed the Slayer. This is perfect, said the man Jack. Look at us. We're in a place for which my people have been hunted for thousands of years, with everything necessary for the ceremony waiting for us. It makes you believe in Providence, doesn't it? Or in the massed prayers of all the Jacks who have gone before us, that our lowest ebb we are given this. Bod could feel the Slayer listening to Jack's words, could feel a low susurrus of excitement building in the chamber. The man Jack said, I'm going to put out my hand, boy. Scarlet, my knife is still at your throat. Do not try to run when I let go of you. Boy, you will place the cup and the knife and the brooch in my hand. The treasure of the Slayer, whispered the triple voice. It always comes back. We guard the treasure for the master. Bod bent down, took the objects from the altar stone, put them in Jack's open gloved hand. Jack grinned. Scarlet, I'm going to release you. When I take the knife away, I want you to lie face down on the ground with your hands behind your head. Move or try anything, and I will kill you painfully. Do you understand? She gulped. Her mouth was dry, but she took one shaky step forward. Her right arm, which had been twisted up to the small of her back, was now numb, and she felt only pins and needles in her shoulder. She lay down, her cheek resting on the packed earth. We're dead, she thought, and it was not even tinged with emotion. It felt as if she were watching something happening to other people, a surreal drama that had turned into a game of murder in the dark. She heard the noise of Jack taking hold of Bod. Bod's voice said, Let her go! The man Jack's voice, If you do everything I say, I won't kill her. I won't even hurt her. I don't believe you. She can identify you. No. The adult's voice seemed certain. She can't. And then it said, 10,000 years. 10,000 spoons, and all you need is a knife. The song Ironic by Alanis Morissette, a poet from the 90s, the generation. 10,000 years and the knife is still sharp. The admiration in the voice was palpable. Boy, go and kneel on that altar stone, hands behind your back, now. It has been so long, said the Slayer, but all Scarlet heard was a slithering noise, as if of enormous coils winding around the chamber. But the man Jack heard, You want to know your name, boy, before I spill your blood on the stone. Bod felt the cold of the knife at his neck, and in that moment Bod understood. Everything slowed. Everything came into focus. I know my name, he said. I'm Nobody Owens. That's who I am. And kneeling on the cold altar stone, it all seemed very simple. Slayer, he said to the chamber, do you still want a master? The The slayer guards the treasure until the master returns. Well, said Bod, haven't you finally found the master you've been looking for? He could sense the slayer writhing and expanding, hear a noise like the scratching of 1,000 dead twigs, as if something huge and muscular were snaking its way around the inside of the chamber. And then, for the first time, Bod saw the slayer. Afterwards, he was never able to describe what he had seen. Something huge. Yes, something with the body of an enormous snake, with the head of a what? There were 3 of them, 3 heads, 3 necks, 3 faces were dead, as if someone had constructed dolls from parts of the corpses of humans and of animals. The faces were covered in purple patterns, tattooed in swirls of indigo, turning the dead faces into strange, expressive, monstrous things. The faces of the slayer nuzzled the air about Jack's tentatively, as if they wanted to stroke or caress him. "What's happening?" said Jack. "What is it? What does it do?" "It's called the slayer. It guards this place. It needs a master to tell it what to do," said Bod. Jack hefted the flint knife in his hand. "Beautiful," he said to himself. And then, "Of course, it's been waiting for me. And yes, obviously, I am its new master." The slayer encircled the interior of the chamber. "Master," it said, like a dog who had waited patiently for too long. It said, "Master," as if testing the word to see how it tasted. And it tasted good, so it said one more time with a sigh of delight and of longing, "Master." Jack looked down at Bod. 13 years ago I missed you, and now we are reunited. The end of one order, the beginning of another. Goodbye, boy." With one hand he lowered the knife to the boy's throat. The other hand held the goblet. "Bod," said Bod. "Not boy. Bod." He raised his voice. "Slayer," he said, "what will you do with your new master?" The slayer sighed. "We will protect him until the end of time. The slayer will hold him in its coils forever and never let him endure the dangers of the world." "Then protect him," said Bod. "Now." "I am your master. You will obey me," said the man Jack. "The slayer has waited so long," said the triple voice of the slayer triumphantly. "So long." It began to loop its huge, lazy coils around the man Jack. The man Jack dropped the goblet. Now he had a knife in each hand, a flint knife and a knife with a black bone handle. And he said, "Get back! Get away from me! Don't get any closer!" He slashed out with his knife as the slayer twined about him, and a huge crushing movement engulfed the man Jack in its coils. Bod ran over to Scarlet and helped her up. "I want to see," she said. "I want to see what's happening." She pulled out her LED light and turned it on. What Scarlet saw was not what Bod saw. She did not see the slayer, and that was a mercy. She saw the man Jack, though. She saw the fear on his face, which made him look like Mr. Frost had once looked. In his terror, he was once more the nice man who had driven her home. He was floating in the air, floating in the air, 5, 10 feet above the ground, slashing wildly at the air with 2 knives, trying to stab something she could not see, in a display that was obviously having no effect. Mr. Frost, the man Jack, whoever he was forced away from them, pulled back until he was spread eagle, arms and legs wide and flailing, against the side of the chamber wall. It seemed to Scarlet that Mr. Frost was being forced through the wall, pulled into the rock, was being swallowed up by it. Now there was nothing visible but a face. He was shouting wildly, desperately, shouting at Bod to call the thing off, to save him, please, please. And then the man's face was pulled through the wall, and the voice was silenced. Bod walked back to the altar stone. He picked up the stone knife and the goblet and the brooch from the ground, and he replaced them where they belonged. He left the black metal knife where it fell. Scarlet said, I thought you said the Slayer couldn't hurt people. I thought all it could do was frighten us. Yes, said Bod, but it wanted a master to protect. It told me so. Scarlet said, You mean you knew? You knew that would happen? Yes, I hoped it would. He helped her up the steps and out into the chaos of the Frobisher mausoleum. I'll need to clean all this up, said Bod, casually. Scarlet tried not to look at the things on the floor. They stepped out into the graveyard. Scarlet said dully once more, You knew that would happen. This time Bod said nothing. She looked at him as if unsure of what she was looking at. So you knew that the Slayer would take him. Was that why you had me down there? Was it? What was I? Bait? Bod said, It wasn't like that. We're still alive, aren't we? And he won't trouble us any longer. Scarlet could feel the anger and the rage welling up inside her. The fear had gone, and now all she was left with was the need to lash out, to shout. She fought the urge. And what about those other men? Did you kill them too? I didn't kill anyone. Then where are they? One of them's at the bottom of a deep grave with a broken ankle. The other three, well, they're a long way away. You didn't kill them. Of course not, said Bod. This is my home. Why would I want them hanging around here for the rest of time? Then, look, it's okay. I dealt with them. Scarlet took a step away from him. She said, You aren't a person. People don't behave like you. You're as bad as he was. You're a monster. Bod felt the blood drain from his face. After everything he had been through that night, after everything that had happened, this was somehow the hardest thing to take. No, he said. It wasn't like that. Scarlet began to back away from Bod. She took 1 step, 2 steps, and was about to flee, to turn and run madly, desperately away through the moonlit graveyard. Across the moonlit floor, when a tall man in black velvet put a hand on her arm and said, I'm afraid you do Bod an injustice, but you will undoubtedly be happier if you remember none of this. So let us walk together, you and I, and discuss what has happened to you over the last few days, and what it might be wise for you to remember, and what it might be better for you to forget. Bod said, Silas, you can't make her forget me. It will be safest that way, said Silas simply, for her, if not for all of us. Don't I get a say in this? Asked Scarlet. Silas said nothing. Bod took a step towards Scarlet. Look, it's over. I know it was hard, but we did it. You and me. We beat them. Her head was shaking gently as if she was denying everything she saw, everything she was experiencing. She looked up at Silas and only said, I just want to go home. Please. Silas nodded. He walked with the girl down the path that would eventually lead them both out of the graveyard. Bod stared at Scarlet as she walked away, hoping that she would turn and look back, that she would smile, or just look at him without fear in her eyes. But Scarlet did not turn. She simply walked away. Bod went back into the mausoleum. He had to do something, so he began to pick up the fallen coffins, to remove the debris, and to replace the tangle of tumbled bones into the coffins, disappointed to discover that none of the many Frobishers and Frobishers and Pettifers gathered around to watch seemed to be quite certain whose bones belong in which container. There we go. The end for tonight. Okay, so that is still chapter 7. Next time, we are on page 288, and this bad boy ends 307. So next time we are finishing no matter what. We are just going to hunker down and push through. So it might be a little bit of a longer one, potentially 35 to 40 minutes. And that's it. We'll be finishing up the book, which I'm very excited about. That's it for this evening. Drink your water, get some sleep, May your sleep be restful and healing. May your dreams be vivid and revealing. May your morning be bright and appealing. So mote it be. Little love, little peace. Stay spooky, my compadres. Know that I love you. Glad that you're here. And looking forward to finishing this book next week, because I cannot take any more of it. Just kidding. I'm loving it. All right, get out of here. I hope something magic happens to you, and I will see you next week, like I said. Ciao.